appreciate you, we love you, and I've had the privilege of knowing her for many years now, since she was in the state senate, and recognizing the job that she has done, fighting all the crazy people in Washington, D.C., that's no small deal.
Amen.
Thank you.
And she's also been a great supporter of the Hispanic community. I know Fred has known that since her time in the state senate, and now as our 5th Congressional District Congresswoman. She's been a great supporter of this Hispanic Center, and I know she's going to continue to support the Hispanic and Latino communities in the state of Oklahoma and around the country. So it's my great honor to introduce to you Congresswoman Stephanie Bice.
This community center is incredibly important to the area. And I say that because we really haven't had anything like this until now. A place that can bring people together, a place that we can, discuss issues, but also we're reminded of the greatness of this country, that it is all walks of life, all demographics. Many of you know that I am the product of an immigrant. My father immigrated to the United States in 1970. And so I recognize the importance of the immigrant community across Oklahoma and across the nation. And so I appreciate the newspapers for being here today, publications. I think it's important for us to have those conversations and reach out, because candidly, in my opinion, and I'll use my dad as a great example, folks that have immigrated to this country realize how great this country is. They recognize the freedoms, they recognize the opportunity, and the ability to prosper. You look at countries across this world right now that are oppressing women, minorities, but here in the United States, that's not the way it is. And so we come together today to really showcase the community, the oneness, the wholeness that everyone has as we celebrate the diversity that this country provides. I'll talk a little bit about the campaign, I'll talk a little bit about the race, and then I'm happy to open it up for a couple of questions here. The 2020 election cycle was interesting. I have said many times before that I could write a book about how to campaign during a global pandemic. I remember in June of 2020 donning latex gloves and passing out flyers at homes to make sure that we got our message out. Then when I was sworn into office, COVID was still a thing in DC, and everything was shut down, and you couldn't really build relationships. You all have heard me many times say that the 2020 campaign was the most expensive campaign in Oklahoma history. $20 million both sides all in, independent expenditures included. And the reason was because it was a competitive race, and oftentimes in Oklahoma we don't see competitive races like that. So this race is a little different. This race is, we do have a independent candidate as well as a Democrat candidate that we are running up against. And the news you have, I'm sure, seen over the last several months really showcases or talks about the fact that the Republican side should win the House. In a midterm election cycle, Republicans tend to gain an average of 27 seats. And right now we have a minority 4-seat deficit in the House. But I will warn you about something, and that is complacency. We can't get comfortable. We can't phone it in. We have to make sure that we are getting out there in our neighborhoods, in our communities, and advocating for what we believe in, fighting for the conservative values that we have, fighting for representation that will truly represent Oklahoma. And so I ask all of you here to engage with the Republican Party, with the state party. We have a new chairman. They are really looking at focusing on broadening the scope of things that they can do, We'll have a lot, 5th District here I know is doing, Oklahoma County is doing stuff as well. Everyone is really engaged, and that is incredibly important because not only does it help races like mine, but it helps down ballot races, that several of those candidates are here today. So please remember as we get closer to election cycle, as we get over this Labor Day holiday and the campaigns gear up, please engage with the campaign. Sign up to phone bank, sign up to block walk if you can, yard signs, whatever you can do, because it's incredibly important that we make our presence known here. Let me talk a little bit about what's happening in DC. Or what's not happening, I think someone said earlier. The most recent egregious move that has been made, you all are very well aware of, and that is the loan forgiveness program. It is an affront to so many individuals that this is being considered. And I say considered because I do believe that this will not end up happening. I think it will be challenged in court on a constitutional basis, and I'm not sure it will actually go through. But I want to tell you my story, because I think my story is very similar to so many others across the country. When I went to college in 1991, my father said, I can help you. And he was able to pay for college for 2 years. And at the end of my sophomore year, he flew me to California, where he was living at the time. And he said, I'm very sorry, I'm out of money, I can't help you with college anymore. I was 19 years old, and I had to make a decision. I knew that college was my ticket. I knew that I had an opportunity, and I couldn't waste it. So I came home, I went to the financial aid office, I filled out loan forms, I took out a loan, I went and found myself a job on campus working 20 hours a week, and I put myself through school. I graduated with a degree, but I took out loans to get there. And I spent the next 7 years, my husband and I did, paying those loans off. It was $11,000 in loans, strangely enough. And so it is an affront to me that now we're going to give people a free pass. In addition to that, I have, many of you know, my friend Ron here is wearing my favorite colors. Usually someone yells boomer in the I'm nonpartisan when it comes to the universities, unless it's football bedlam. So you all may know, many of you know, that I took my second daughter to Oklahoma State 2 weeks ago. We now have a senior and a freshman at Oklahoma State University. And my husband and I sacrificed a tremendous amount to be able to pay for college for them. Bravo. We did not buy new cars. We do not live in a fancy house. We did not go on vacations. We did not buy, frivolous things that were unnecessary. We saved because we knew it was important. And now to see this coming about is very disconcerting. You also have to remember that there are so many individuals that have become incredibly successful by going to trade school. And right now, we are desperate for young people to enter the trades. Welding, plumbing, electrical. Anybody hired a plumber lately? They're making bank. They didn't have to take out a loan to do that. They went to the community colleges and the VOTECs to make that happen. Trade schools. We need to be reminded that those individuals made sacrifices themselves, not taking out those loans to be able to provide for their families. And so you will see me push back vehemently on this. As a matter of fact, my staff's been asking me for a couple of days, can you please do a video so we can put it out about your story, because it's great. So you may hear that story repeated on social media maybe later today. But I want you all to know that these are the types of things that the Republican side is fighting back against. We provide for ourselves. We pull ourselves up from our bootstraps. It is not the government that provides. And one other thing that was mentioned to me yesterday, and I love this analogy, the government's not doing anything. We, the taxpayers, are doing it. It is not government loan forgiveness. It is our taxpayer loan forgiveness. You had a Inflation Reduction Act recently passed on a very partisan basis that included an unbelievable amount of money for IRS agents. We were talking about this earlier. There's a couple of folks here that had some challenges with the IRS. We don't need 87,000 IRS agents. And people keep saying, well, yeah, but we're going to have the ability to go after the millionaires and billionaires. That's not true. You all have seen the numbers. It is an affront. It's insulting, candidly. The other thing that most people may not know is that Inflation Reduction Act also included a 3-year extension of the Obamacare subsidies that were put into effect at the beginning of COVID. People were unemployed, they were losing their health care and losing their jobs, so the government stepped in and said, we need to supplement this for a while. But that extension is now gone. We'll go 3 more years, which means the insurance payments that individuals have been making will have a 5-year subsidy on them that did not exist before COVID. How are you going to take that away? You can't. It'll be a fight, right? I think the best analogy I have for the Democrats currently is spend, spend, spend. Since I've been elected, it's $6 trillion. Infrastructure packages, COVID relief packages, Inflation Reduction Acts, you name it, they're spending it. This particular loan forgiveness program, we've heard it could be upwards of $30 billion. We don't have that kind of money. We cannot continue to spend and pass this down to the next generation and the next generation and the next generation. Ron got caught. Another topic that has been brought up very recently, you've heard a little bit about, has been land acquisition, and particularly land acquisition by foreign adversaries. And it is something that we are all looking at. It is very concerning. In Western Oklahoma, there has been a large amount of land acquisition by foreign entities, and we have to stop that. It is a national security threat. It is a food security threat. And so know that I am looking very, thoroughly at trying to address that issue as best we can. And you'll see something likely come up in the next couple of weeks. On that note, we have 3 weeks left before in DC before the election, and I don't know what Pelosi's going to pull out of her hat, throw up on the board, but I guess it's probably not going to be good. You also have the lame duck session that will happen after the election that I'm fearful that we will have a lot of garbage, if you will, that'll be put up for a vote as well. So I will continue to advocate, as I have from the very beginning, for Oklahoma. I will advocate for you all. I will advocate for my constituents. I will advocate for vets. I will advocate for doing the right thing, cutting spending, being fiscally responsible, making sure that our military is fully funded and taken care of, because that is incredibly important right now. One of the things I have learned in my short time is that we need to be very careful about China, particularly, because they are taking over. And if we don't pay attention to what's happening, it will come back to haunt us. So I want to say thank you. Thank you all for being here this afternoon. Thank you for your time. Fred, thank you for your commitment to the community. Josh, thank you for being such a great team player. I'm so grateful to have my staff here. I don't know if they're hiding out somewhere or they slipped out for a minute. But Matt Blubaugh, Sonia Kaufman, and my entire team have been incredible. And I could not be here and do it without them. So thank you. I'm now happy to open it up for a couple of questions.
I failed to do something that's very, very critically important, and I want to do this.
Speak up, please.
I said, I failed to do something that's very, very important, very critical, and I want to do this in honor of Congresswoman Bice, and that is, Ron, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
profile reseña que usted es una ferviente luchadora en contra del socialismo. ¿Cuáles son sus propuestas para frenar esta ideología que está influenciando en la sociedad norteamericana y enraizada en la mayoría de los inmigrantes latinoamericanos, que son votantes activos y que es una población en crecimiento en este estado?
In your profile, Stephanie, you state that you are a fervent fighter against socialism. What are your proposals to curb the ideology that is influencing not only American society, especially young people, and rooted in the majority of Latin American immigrants who are active voters, and that it is a growing population in this state? I ask because we are facing a serious
It's a great question. I think first and foremost, we cannot hand over power to the federal government. Because when you hand over that power, you never get it back. And that's what really drives the socialist movement in these countries like Venezuela is the people have tried, but maybe been unsuccessful in fighting back against federal overreach, federal takeover. And the government takes more and more and more and more, taking your liberties, taking your freedoms. And it's in some ways death by 1,000 cuts. A little here, a little there. And that sort of goes back to the conversation on Second Amendment. Oh, well, if we can take it for these people, then maybe we can take it for these people too. Yeah, so thank you all so much.